Hi everybody. In the previous video, we created our pin and unpin functionalities. In today's video, we are going to work on the user's profile settings page, so that they can delete their account and change their password, or update, show, hide or delete other personal information, like a profile picture, bio, name and more. We created a second test user and submitted a post. We will use this account to test the delete function. We also played around with the base templates to make some changes on the menu links. In the user card, we added a link to the settings URL. This URL leads to a task and was given a name. Onto the task. Wrapped in the login required function. The name freely chosen. We request the user and pass it in a context box with a render of the settings page. Let's click the card and go to the user settings page. On its base template, we added two links. One is a page refresh, the other goes back to the user's profile page. The settings page is a long one and contains a lot of forms which we will all see in detail during the video. On top, we load the usual tags, and we also added some CSS on this page to restrict its reach. First our form for the picture. Then the bio. The name. Other personal information. The password. And at the bottom of the page, the red button, the delete account form. In the action tag the link to the name of the URL. The URL leads to a task. Onto the task. Wrapped in the login required function. We request the user and change the deleting sure Boolean field, defined in the user model, to true or false, depending on the state before the request. We save the change and redirect to the user profile page. Let's click the button. As expected, we are redirected to the profile page. But on its base template, we added a check on the deleting sure Boolean. If true, we show a confirmation and reset button, while hiding all the rest of the profile page behind the else statement. The result can be seen on the left. If we push the reset button, we go back to the task, which will set the Boolean back to false, which show the whole profile page again. Works. Let's push the delete button again. And see what happens when the final delete button is pushed. In the action tag of the form, the name of the URL. As always, the URL leads to a task. The task is wrapped in the login required function. The name freely chosen. We request the user and check the deleting sure Boolean. If false, we redirect with a message. If true, we know the user really wants to delete the account, so we delete the user and redirect to the sign-in page with a goodbye message. This should also delete the post and picture of the user. Let's delete the user. Mind the corals picture in the media folder. Seems to work, redirected with a message. Let's check the admin console to verify the deletes. Post deleted. And so is the user. We will now sign in as test user 1 and check the change password functionality. We are implementing a front-end check with JavaScript to see if the new password meets certain requirements and if the confirmation password is equal. This is a full copy of the sign-up JavaScript, so we refer to that video for more details. For our Django task, we have added a post form with the name of the task URL in the action tag. We gave the form 3 input fields. The first is to capture the user's current password. We gave it a name, minimum length, and made it required. The second is to capture the user's new password. We gave it a name, minimum length, and made it required. The last one is to capture the confirmation password. We gave it a name, minimum length, and made it required. As always, the URL leads to a task. For the task, we need to import the Make Password tool, which will encrypt the new password before storing it, making sure nobody can see it. The task is wrapped in the login required function. The name freely chosen. We store the user in a variable. Next, we will check if the request method is a post submit. If not, and it's only a visit of the URL, the else statement is executed, which is a redirect with a message. If the request method is a post, we retrieve the form's fields, the passwords, and store them in variables. And we retrieve the username of the user and store it in a variable. Now we can use the variables to perform checks. The first one is assign an attempt using the authentication function with the username and current password. And check if the result is none, or in other words, if the authentication failed. If true, we know the current password given is wrong, so we redirect with a message. If false, we know the current password given is correct, so we continue the checks. First, we compare the confirmation password with the new password. If not equal, we redirect with a message. If equal, we can perform our final check to see if the new password meets all requirements. Minimum length, number, lowercase and uppercase. If not, we redirect with a message. In case the new password does meet all requirements, we will first encrypt it with the Make Password tool. Note, this is a requirement. Then we call the user object using the filter and username and update the password. As a password update logs off the user, we redirect to the sign-in page with a message. Let's test the task. First, with an incorrect current password. And it works. Next, with a correct current and new password but not matching confirmation password. Our JavaScript works. And so does our task. Now with a valid current password and confirmation password but with the new password missing a number. Our JavaScript works. And so does the task. We did the other requirement checks off screen and they work. Now we will change the password using valid inputs. Seems to work. We are signed out and redirected with a message. Signing in with the new password. And also works. Let's see what we did for the profile picture. Here, we also do a front-end check on the size and format with a JavaScript. It's a copy of the script used to submit a post, so we refer to that video for more details. The error messages will display here. Displaying, changing, deleting a profile picture can be done on many ways. Our method used might be a little different than expected. We use one form and task to do all. In the action tag, the URL name of the task. As we are submitting content, we have to include the ink type. Let us explain the logic used. If a user has a profile picture, we show that picture and nothing else. If the user has no profile picture yet, the else statement will be executed, which is showing an output field for the JavaScript to show the selected picture, an upload button and an input field. This is what you currently see on the left as we have no picture yet. We do a same logic for the button. If the user has a profile picture, we show an erase button. If not, we show a submit button, which is what you see now as we have no picture yet. Let's see the form in action before moving to the task. Selecting and submitting a picture. As we now have a profile picture, we are in the if statements in our form. The profile picture is shown and nothing else. And the erase button is shown and nothing else. And when erasing the picture, we go back to the else statements. If you noticed, the picture was nicely added and deleted in the profile pictures media folder. The URL, as always, leads to a task and was given a name. For the task, we imported pillow, needed to verify the picture. Scrolling down to the task. It is wrapped in the login required function. The name freely chosen. Half of the task is a copy of the post task, where we capture pictures and verify size and format with pillow. So we refer to that video for more details. We check if the submitted picture is not none, or in other words, if the user actually submitted something. If true, we try to open it with pillow. If it fails, we know the format is invalid and redirect with a message. Let's try this. When uploading an invalid format, we see that our JavaScript works. And when submitting, we see that our task works too. If Pillow can open the picture, we can check its size. When uploading an oversized picture, we see that the JavaScript works. When submitting, we see that our task works too. In case the picture has a valid format and is within the size tolerance, we store it in the user's profile picture field, save the change and redirect with a message. Let's try this. It works. We see our picture and are in the if statements of the form. Now the second part of our task comes into play. As the form has the input field hidden, the erase button will submit nothing, aka none. So the else statement will be executed. First we insert this check to see if the user had no profile picture and is submitting an empty form. If true, we redirect with a message. If false, we know the user has a profile picture and wants to erase it. So we make their profile picture field blank, save the change and redirect with a message. Let's erase the picture. Works. As we have no profile picture anymore, let's try this empty submit. Works. We get our message and no further impact. Let's upload and submit a valid picture again and see how we display it on the user card in the profile page. We check if the user has anything stored in their profile picture field. If true, we insert the picture. How it's displayed is all CSS. Moving on to the bio section. Let's see our method used. The first part is to show the user's bio, above the input field, in case the user has written one. If so, we will also add a form to make the bio public or not. And depending on the public Boolean field of the bio, we display a green or gray button. The second part is the form to submit the bio. As always, the URL name in the action tag. And a text area input field, with a maximum length as front-end check. As we use one form to update and delete, we check if the user has a bio. If true, an update or erase button is shown. If not true, the current What's Up button is shown. Let's see the form in action before we go to the tasks. Submitted some text. As there is now a bio, it is displayed above the input field as expected, as this code is now activated. Showing the bio. And as it's not public yet, we see the gray eye. If we push the button, the Make Public task, which we will see in a moment, is executed, making the bio public, and we see a green button. And if we go down to the bio submit form, as there is already a bio, we see the update or erase button. Let's update and submit some text. And we see the new text as bio. Note the eye is gray again as we are resetting the public Boolean with each update or erase. Now let's erase the bio by submitting an empty form. As always, the URLs lead to their own task, and we're given a name. The first task is to update or erase the bio. It is wrapped in the login required function. The name freely chosen. We request the user and retrieve the input field of the form. If the field is not empty, we check the length. If not within the limits, we redirect with a message. Let's test. Works. Next, we check if the user is submitting an empty form while also having no bio. This means nothing is updated and we redirect with a message. Let's test. Works. The following line of code handles 3 scenarios. In case the user has no bio but submits a valid form, a new one is created. In case the user has a bio but submits an empty form, it is set to blanks and therefore erased. In case the user has a bio and submits a valid form, it is overwritten. In all 3 scenarios, we reset the public Boolean field to false, its default value. Save the change. And redirect with a message. Testing. Works. A quick look to the task to make the bio public or not. wrapped in the login required function. We request the user check if their public bio Boolean field is true. If so, we set it to false. In contrast, if it's false, we set it to true. Both have their own redirect with a message. As the bio is not public, we are not showing it on the profile page. If we make the bio public by pushing the I, we should see it on the profile page. And we do. We added it to the user card. Checking if the user has a bio and if it's public. If both true, we insert the bio. The statement can be simplified. If the Boolean is true, it implies the user has a bio, so no need to check that, but no harm to do both. Moving on to the name section. Let's see our method used. As we do not want to allow a name to be changed, we are working with an if-else statement. If the user already confirmed a name, we show the name together with a form to make it public. We use the public name Boolean check to decide what color a button to show. In case the user has no name confirmed yet, we show the submit form, as you can see now. In the action tag, the URL name of the task. An input field with a maximum length as front-end check. And the submit button on the left. Let's see the form in action. First, an empty submit. No impact. And now submitting a name. And it works. The name appeared. With the familiar I. And the submit form disappeared. Forever hidden behind the else statement. As we don't want to show both the username and name of a user, making it public will replace the username with the name. Let's try. Works. And reversing it. Also works. The URLs, both leading to their own task and given a name. On to the tasks. The first one to submit the name. Wrapped in the login required function. The name freely chosen. We request the user and check if they already confirmed a name. In this case, they should not see the form, but this extra check does no harm. If true, we redirect with a message. If not true, the task continues. We retrieve the name from the form and check if it's blank. If true, we redirect with a message. If not blank, we store the name in the first _name field of the user, which is a standard field of the user model. There is also a last _name field in the model if needed. We save the change and redirect with a message. We see we overlooked to do a length check on the name. We will insert it later. The second task. A copy of the one used to make the bio public. But with a different name and correct public Boolean field. Let's make the name public and see how it changes the username. First, on the settings base template. We check if the user has a name confirmed and if it's public. If true, we insert the name. If not true, we insert the username. Again, the statement can be simplified. And we do the same on the user card. Lastly, we will have a quick look at what we did with some other personal information. Note that most is a copy of what we already saw, just with some tweaks. If the user has an occupation confirmed, we show it above the input form like we did with the bio. And we also have our familiar form to make it public with the gray and green I button. As we're not using the input form to delete the user's data, like we did with the picture and bio, we are using a separate delete form and task for this. We do the same for the country. If the user has it confirmed, we show it above the input field with a make public and delete form. When a user confirmed an email, we will show it to the user, but without a form to make it public. We don't want that. We do have the form to delete it. Next comes our input form, which you now see on the left. Linked to the URL name of the task. It has our 3 input fields, all with a maximum length restriction. And the submit button. Let's enter some data. We're not going to do much testing as most is just a copy and test it off screen. Works. We see our input. With our familiar eye and the bins to delete it. In the meantime, we made the occupation and country public. The URLs all lead to their own task and were given a name. On to the tasks. First, the task for the input form. Wrapped in the login required function. The name freely chosen. We request the user and retrieve all users' input. First check is to see if the form was empty. If true, we redirect with a message. Then we check if the occupation and country fields contain input. If so, and they don't meet length requirements, we redirect with a message. Next, we check if the email input is not empty. If so, we check if the email already exists in the database. If true, we check if the email is of the user itself. If true, we redirect with a message. If not true, we know it's from somebody else. So we also redirect with a message. Next, we do some validation checks on the email, just to show what can be done. Now some final checks. As we have separate delete tasks, we don't want empty submits to erase existing user data. So we check if the input is not blank before we store them in the user's fields. When done, we save the change and redirect with a message. The tasks to make the user fields public are a copy of the ones for the bio and name, but with a different name and their relevant public Boolean namings. For the delete tasks, we request the user set the relevant fields to blanks, reset their public Boolean fields to default false, save the change and redirect with a message. The delete task for the email is the same, with the exception that we don't have to reset the public Boolean field. We did not give that option to the user. Let's see how we display the information on the user card. In the same way as the rest. Checking if the user fields contain information and if it's public. If true, inserting the fields. While we clear the user card in the background, field by field, to see if we encounter issues, we want to make some final notes. The more fields and booleans the user model gets, the more users can play around. But what if nobody else can see it? As a reminder, soon we will start working on tasks that let users visit each other's profile page. Later, we will also implement a password reset for non-signed-in users, which is the reason for the email input. We still need to think about the name checks, and we might implement some JavaScript on the settings page where a page refresh moves up the page. We will come back on this. Lastly, take a moment to revisit the cascade of models. Every model with a foreign key to a user will be deleted upon delete of that user. When we add comments to the posts, we will have to amend our delete task as these won't cascade if the post is from another user. Thanks for tuning in. And we hope to see you in the next video.